All right, all right. Good morning, good afternoon in some countries. Welcome to this session, this launching session of the version 2027 of Cype. Let's begin. We are on time here. My name is Afonso Solak. I'm civil engineer. I work here at Cype as corporate development director. I'll be conducting this webinar, this section today. Let's see the main features, the new features that we've just launched in this new version of Cype, okay, version 2027, just launched 2 days ago. So today is June 11, we launched it on June 9. So this is the first presentation, the first content, the first video that we are publishing about this new version. So welcome. I see that the number of attendees is increasing here. So yeah, let's start. So first thing that I think it's very important for this version is that we have new features in all the disciplines, in all the areas, in all the categories of the Cype software. So we have new features for architectural modeling, for structural design, for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, thermal analysis. So in all the disciplines that the Cype portfolio covers, we have new features, and today we'll be covering most of them, probably almost all of them. Let's see what we can do in this 90 minutes, maybe maximum 2 hours that we have here together. Okay. So first aspect that I think is very important, there is a new way to buy the softwares that we have here in our ecosystem. There is a new way to access our softwares. Okay, you see now maybe on my screen this animation showing the new Cype 1. Okay, Cype 1 is the new system that integrates all the experiences or all the full ecosystem that we have here at Cype. Okay, and you have this chance now to start working with Cype in a different way, in a different experience. Okay, just my idea here is not to show you everything about this system, is just give you some highlights about that, but there are new ways to buy the softwares here in our online shop. For example, you can check the possibilities or the different options that we have now available, the different plans. Okay, so the idea is that there are different plans for the different types of professionals that are working with Cype, for structural specialists, for MEP specialists, and also for architectural designers. Okay, some levels, different levels related to the different professionals that include more or less benefits. Okay, here let me just change my currency here. For example, for euros is going to be better to see, but the idea is with these plans, it's much easier to start working with Cype now in these different levels, in these different steps that we have here that include different options. Okay, so I invite you to take a look on our website, look for this new information, this Cype 1 section here in the online shop, and look which one could be maybe more interesting for your case. Okay, talking a little bit about the new features that are more really the technical ones, or the new functionalities, the new options available in the softwares. We'll see that in the list of new features. Okay, so if you want to take a look on these new features with more time, here in the solutions menu, there is a button here with the latest new features. Okay, we always publish here the changes, the updates, and here we have the 2027A version, okay, published on June 9, and here there are some chapters. Okay, so we'll be covering most of them here. We have new features for architecture, as I said before, architecture and interoperability. Also here, different new features related to installations, MEP, structures. Okay, some new features for Cype Connect, for Cype 3D, for CypeCAD, and also some new programs or new modules that we'll be also covering during this presentation. Okay, I selected here a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 14 different programs, okay, that have even more than one feature in each one of these programs. I'll probably start here with the most common or the transversal features that we have here. Then we go through architecture and interoperability, then MEP, and in the end of the presentation, structures. Okay, so the order is going to be that. Okay, so let's do that. Let's start. Okay, the first one that I want to share to you is opening here my Cype menu. Okay, my Cype menu. Cype menu is the wizard or the launcher that we have to manage which applications we want to install in our computer, right? This is something that most of you already use, okay? Here in the Cype menu, you see that this button that we have here in the bottom of the page, it's a little bit different, okay? So the system that we use to manage our license was updated, okay? There are new option here, and it's a little bit more cleaner. It's easier to work. The options that we had in the previous versions to disconnect the license or to manage and change the password, or they are here in these buttons in the top of the screen. And the main new feature is this one here. Okay, you can see, you can check the list of modules that you have in your license. Okay, here you have the list of modules, and then you can see if you have or not these modules in your license. Okay, so if you are working in a project and then you have a special need for a new project and you don't have that module, you can check here if your module is available in your license or not. In case it's not, you can contact our sales team to then upgrade your software and add this model. Okay, so you can check which are the modules of your license. Actually, this option was available before, but it was like a huge list and you couldn't see all the modules, just those that were available in your license. Now you are able to see all the modules available in the Cype ecosystem and then check if it's available or not in your license. Okay, just a little trick, as in all the tables that we have in all the lists or tables that we have in the Cype ecosystem, you can always use your space bar to open the search option, and then you can look for some for a text and look for something special. If you are looking for something specific, related to that word that you search, okay? So this new system is available here in the Cype menu, but actually when you install the softwares, like, how can I say, like a single installation, just one software itself, there is also a button similar to this one where you can also see the licenses or the modules that are included in your license, okay? Good. Another aspect that is also available for all the softwares that we have here in the ecosystem, it's a new mode. Let me open here one option. For example, I think I'll do that with Cype, for example. I'll open here Cype, and I'll show it to you how, maybe with Cype is going to be better. Let me open with Cype. I think it's going to be even better. Cype, it's here. So let me open Cype. You see that when you open the software, first we renewed our icons. Most of our icons are now much more cleaner, much more modern. You see that a lot of our interfaces now have these icons that are much more it's updated to what is our new style and our new interfaces, okay? And you see here in the main screen, when you open the softwares, the same button that I've just told it before to manage the licenses, and also this new area here where you can change the performance and the appearance of your software, okay? And here there are two new features. Now the first one is this one, the appearance, okay? You can click here, and then you can change the software from light to dark mode, okay? I've told you that I would use Cype. I open Cype. Let me open here, Cype. Cype looks the same. Look that the options are also available here, okay? So this appearance, light mode or dark mode, okay? So you can select between these two modes, and I'll select here, for example, my dark mode. I'll accept, and the software is telling to me the program must be restarted for the changes to be applied. So I'll accept this. I'll also change here my background color for black, for example. I'll close it, okay? Let's also close here the Cype. And let's open Cype again, and you understand what is this new feature. Look, this is the effect that we can see. So we can open the dark mode of the softwares, okay? I'll just open here a little project and navigate a little bit through this new mode, okay? Just to show you a little bit how is this experience. Actually, is exactly the same process for every software in the Cype ecosystem, okay? Look that the buttons, the menus, the options, they are exactly in the same place, but with this dark mode that can help you, especially when you are a little bit more tired in the end of the day, when it's already night. So you can use the dark mode as a lot of other applications that also have a feature like that. Okay, so here you can see how it what's the aspect of this new dark mode. Two important things about that. The first thing is that the dark mode will control everything that is related to these menus, the navigation itself. Okay, the 3D area or the 3D modeling or viewing area, you control that by changing the background here. Okay, so you can even combine that if you want. Okay, you can combine that, not necessarily using the black background. Okay, so you have these options here to personalize your desktop as you prefer. Okay, so here you can also change the appearance for the light mode again, but then you need to restart the program to see the effects. Okay, and this is how you can control this new mode. Okay, you see that in all the other applications is exactly the same process. Okay, another new feature that is available, that is also available for every software, is our new AI system or our new AI agent. Okay, we can see here, for example, in Cype, we can see here this little button, so called Cype Mentor. Okay, Cype Mentor is here. If I click here, a website will run here and we'll open Cype Mentor. Okay, Cype Mentor, we can log here, we can use our credentials, the same credentials that we use for my Cype to log in on BIMserver, for example. We can use to open the Cype Mentor. Okay, and in Cype Mentor, we can use it as our AI, the AI here from Cype, to help us in the process of working with the different softwares. Okay, so any doubt that we have, or if you want to look for an instruction, a tutorial, or if you have, for example, you are designing something and there is a message with a error about that design, you can get that information and come here and ask for that doubt. Okay, for example, here I'm using Cype Mentor filtered by Cype. Okay, because I open Cype Mentor from Cype. Okay, so my responses, the answers from Cype Mentor now, they will be related to Cype because I open from Cype. Okay, so here, for example, I could ask what types of automations to introduce lights exists in Cype. Oh, I can do this kind of questions. No, so Cype Mentor will start helping us to find this information, or you can even ask for like a mini tutorial. How can I introduce lights from a manufacturer in Cype? And Cype will try to show you how to use that. Now, in this case, Cype is showing the automatic layout by zones. Here showing where is that option, automatic lightning distribution, the other options that are here. Okay, so this is the new AI agent that is available here at Cype. Okay, here you can also upload your pictures. For example, if there's a problem in the project, you want to take a print screen and post it here. Okay, and you can also save here a list of conversations with Cype Mentor if you are logged with your account. Okay, if you are not logged, you can use that for 3-4 questions. Then the Cype Mentor will ask you to log in. but it's a part of the Cype ecosystem. So if you already have your account on BIMserver.center, for example, it's going to be the same account because it's everything under the My Cype ecosystem. Okay, so everything is integrated. Okay, let me open one more example here. For example, let's see. For example, this is CypeCat. Okay, I just have here one example. The button is also here in CypeCat. Okay, so if I open Cype Mentor from here, it's going to be filtered for CypeCat, and then I can ask for CypeCat, how can I introduce stairs in CypeCat? Okay, I can do that. Or how should I work to consider pushing, pushing shear reinforcement? No. So you can do this kind of questions, and the site mentor will try to help you, giving you the instructions. Okay. So yeah, let's just wait for this first answer here. If it's necessary, you can also ask for more generic questions. No, so the workflow here in CypeCat for punching shear reinforcement. No, so where you have to go, how you have to introduce that. Okay, and sometimes even some references that are available in our documentation, in our website, in our documents, in our calculation reports. So sometimes you have these references here. Here you can also give a feedback for us. It's very important for us to receive your feedbacks, because in the end, the idea is increase the quality of these answers, increase the behavior of this AI, and for that it's necessary to receive your feedback. Okay. Good. These three first new features, licenses, the dark mode and Cype Mentor, they are available for all the softwares. Okay. So now let's start with some features that are by discipline. Okay. So let's start with MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Okay. Coming back here to our list, you see here in architecture and interoperability. Sorry, I told MEP, but interoperability before, but you see that is also mixed with MEP. Okay. In the interoperability section, we have here new options available in the plugin that we have to connect Cype with Revit. Okay, so this plugin we have been developing more features to convert IFC entities into native files from Revit. For example, you have more than one option to connect Cype with Revit. You can link your IFCs from Cype in Revit. You can convert your IFCs to direct shapes on Revit, or you can convert your IFCs into native families on Revit. The plugin does these three things, okay? And we have been implementing for that in the past for different types of elements, okay? For structural elements that was available from 2 years ago, maybe, but not just that, also for other MEP categories, okay? In the past, we introduced it for pipes, using the pipes from Cype Plumbing, for example, okay? But now we also increased the types of elements. Now it's also possible for HVAC and also for lighting, okay? So I created here just a little example, one of the projects that we designed together in the last course of Cype Fundamentals, okay, the little restaurant that we designed. And you see that here I synchronized a lot of IFCs here, okay? So these IFCs, they came from Cype, okay? Here my architecture is turned off, okay? Could be the architecture designed here in Revit, for example. And you see that here when you go to the add-ins and you install the plugin, there are some buttons, okay? I will not show this working now. We don't have that time, okay? But basically, you have these three options. You can maintain these IFCs here, just link it as they are, or you can use these options here to extract content from the IFC links to the document, and then you have direct shapes for your models. Or you can extract the contents and link and assign families to these elements, okay? If I click here, you see that the IFCs that I have, they will appear. I can select one of them, And then that's going to be here a panel that you can use to establish this mapping or this correlation between what you have in your IFC and what's going to be the results that you want to have in Revit, okay? For example, let's imagine here in my air terminals from the HVAC design, I have all these MEP elements, element types, okay? I can select if I want to apply or not a mapping here. And here, if you have families that you uploaded before to Revit and you want to establish a correlation between this element in the IFC with the family from your library, these families, they will appear here. In my case, I don't have families in this project, okay? Most of the situations, maybe you don't have that families. In case you don't have that families, this is a new feature. You can click here and create a new family. And here the plugin will create for you new families according to the geometry that you have in the IFC and also the information, the parameters that we have in the IFC, okay? And here you establish this correlation between what you have in your IFC and the final elements in RVT or in native in Revit, okay? And here's where you control which elements you want to transform, how you want to transform it. And as you said before, we started, for example, here with HVAC because I selected this IFC, and then you have the same for the others. So now in this version, the new feature is that now we also cover HVAC elements and lighting elements besides plumbing elements that were already available and also structural elements that were already available in the past versions. Okay, so if you are working with MEP, you are designing your structures, your installations with Cype HVAC or with Cype Lux in the case of lights. With the version 2027 of the plugin, you can now also convert it to Revit. Okay. Remembering that for this system to convert from IFC to native, there is a specific model that is the acronym is CYR. Okay, it's a specific model that is used to this option. In case you don't have that or you don't know if you have or not, just remember that in your system you can always come and check here if you have or not. And in case you don't have, you can contact our sales team. Okay, very good. So yeah, this was interoperability. Let me just start closing windows here to save hardware in this presentation. We still have here a lot of things to see. Another thing that is very, very interesting is a new automation that we have that is available for Cype Architecture, IFC Builder, and also Cype Term, okay? It's an automation to generate BIM models or 3D models from DWGs, okay? It's something that was available before in CypeCAD. In CypeCAD, we have this option. It was implemented maybe more than 10 years ago in CypeCAD, and now we extended the options for in this module also for architectural elements, okay? So let's do one example. I'll use Cype Architecture to create this example. So basically the idea is I will create a new file, okay? A new file here in Cype Architecture. And in IFC Builder and Cype Term, we have something very, very similar. I can show you later how it works. In my example, I'll not connect with BIMserver yet, and you see this new window here. Could be an empty job, normal as always, or this new option here, generate a project from DWG. What is the idea? It's very, very simple here. First, I will create the levels of my building here. For example, in my case, I'll create here 4 levels, for example, like this. In the top, I'll also create here like one more that I'll call rooftop, for example, to have a different rooftop. Okay, rooftop, the levels here. I'll also add one more here, two levels of roof. Okay, I'll call this one roof 2, for example. Roof 2, roof 2, okay? So I have here my ground floor, the different floors, the standard floors, one roof and the rooftop, okay? This is gonna be the levels of my building. Here, in DWG's DXFs, I can load DWGs okay? DWGs that I have in my computer, okay? I loaded here 3 DWGs. In these DWGs, I can control which layers of information I want to use or not. For example, here in the roof, I will turn off some elements. For example, I will not use the columns. I will not use these hatches just to be a little bit more cleaner. In this openings, probably will not use. Also these hatches, okay? Yeah, what else we have here? Maybe the zero it's empty, okay? So here I have options to control which layers I wanna maintain in this DWG, okay? Yeah, I think I'll leave these guys here. In the rooftop, the same. I'll also clean these hatches, and in the standard, also let's clean a little bit this DWG, okay? I think it's gonna be much easier to understand when we clean. Here I have partition, doors, external walls. For each element of my architectural model, I have different layers in this DWG. And this is the point, okay? We can convert these layers into BIM objects or in BIM elements, okay? So, or 3D elements. So here I'm just checking if all those that I need, they are really here. Yeah, most of them are here, okay? Then what you can do, you can go for a new option where you establish a connection between the levels that we created before with the DWG templates that we imported. So I have here 4 types of levels and 3 DWGs. In the rooftop, I will assign the rooftop. In the roof, I will just also use, for example, the same that I have for this one here, the roof. The floor 1 to floor 4, it's going to be the standard, and the ground floor also the standard, okay? So I'm assigning DWGs to the different levels that we have. Then here I have the walls. It's going to be the same process. For example, the layer called partition, I will select and I will apply party wall, okay? Party wall is going to be the type of element that will be generated automatically from the partition. Door. The door, no, it's not going to be here. The door is going to be later when we go to the doors option. External wall. External wall is going to be external facade, okay? The fence. I'm not sure if I use that or not. I will try to do without the fences. Then we see what happens. If it's necessary, we can update. Openings, also later. Window, later. Slabs, later. Roof, slab, later. Okay, so I think that for the walls, with these 2 elements, I can create the walls of my project between partitions and external walls. For slabs, it's going to be similar. I will have here, for example, my floor slab. My floor slab, I will consider it as intermediate floor slab. Flat roofs. The flat roofs, they will be roof, okay? For doors, the doors is going to be door, and for the windows is going to be window, okay? If you want, you can also have different layers for each group, okay? Then the groups appear here, okay? You can also go for a more detailed option and use this option here, okay? I will finish and wait a little bit, okay? And now what Cype architecture is doing is reading the geometry of all these layers, okay? And according to these correlations that we created, Cype architecture will create a first version of a BIM model for us automatically using the default values that we have in Cype architecture for the element types. It means the default walls, the default slabs, the default types of windows, of doors, okay? And that's gonna be exactly the same situation in IFC Builder and also in Cype term, okay? The idea is not to create a perfect model since the beginning, but all that work that you have to do modeling manually when you import these DWGs, when you start like modeling according to the lines, snapping according to the lines in the DWGs, you don't have to do that, okay? You see that most of the geometry will be there, and of course then you can complement this geometry now. So my little model here, it's not perfect, it's not 100% complete, but I save it a lot of time in modeling, okay? So for example, now it's very, very simple to come to my types, for example, and change my properties of the external walls, or create a new type and change the properties of some of them. Or for example, here in my levels are already created. Also here, my plan views already created according to that, okay? And part of my work was much more easier, much more quicker, because I could use part of this DWG information to create this geometry automatically. Okay, of course, that the quality of my DWGs, the number of layers, how can I say, how good they are, will affect a lot in the results in this process. Okay, so if you are working with a DWG that is very, very or very organized, the layers group exactly the elements, you can get a good result. You can import it easily and use this system. Okay, if you have been working with this feature in CypeCAD for structures, maybe you already know how it works, and here is the same. Okay, if I open here Cype, for example, and then I also use Cype to tell you another feature, you see that this option is also available here. Okay, Cype telling also about Cype now, it's just one Cype for everything. Okay, Cype now integrates more than one feature. You see that if I create a new project here, we have here energy simulation that's equivalent to the application Cype E plus in the previous versions. Thermal loads that is equivalent to Cype loads is also here, and improvements measures that is equivalent to Cype improvement plus in previous versions. Okay, so all the Cype terms, they are now under the Cype software. Okay, and for example, I'll just use here what is the thermal loads interface. And here in the thermal loads interface, you also have one option to model your architecture in case you don't have it. Okay, you have that option. Okay, and when you create the new project, you also have this option to import the the beam, the generation, like we did on Cype architecture. Okay, the DWGs to create the beam model. Okay, it's exactly the same process, but it's gonna be here integrated in Cype there. IFC Builder, exactly the same. You create a new project and you have these two options available. Okay, so this is another new feature, another automation that we introduced. You see that there are a lot of automations in this new version, especially for MEP, also then in structures inside Connect you see. And this model that was used just for CypeCAD in the past now is also available for architectural elements. Okay, if you are using user of CypeCAD map from France, from Portugal, from Spain, from certain countries in South America, that's also available in CypeCAD map. Okay, CypeCAD map also have that option available, the same one. Okay. Good. So yes, we talked a little bit about interoperability. Let's take a look here in our list. If it's nothing missing, no, everything okay. And we started actually with MEP. I just told you that, showed that Cype is now integrated. Everything is Cype. I think now I'll take a look on Cype PV systems. Okay, Cype PV systems. This is one of my favorite softwares of MEP here in Cype. So I'm talking about this little software here. When we open MEP electrical, you have here Cype PV systems. Okay, watch out. There is a little change in the name of the software here. Before it was called Cype PV systems. Now we call that Cype PV systems. I'm telling that because if you want to search for information about the software, remember about that. Look for Cype PV systems instead of Cype PV systems. Okay. Let me open the software. I left here an example prepared to show to you. This is a little project that I have been developing. Okay, the project is a federated model where I have the structural design that I did with with Cype 3D could be even with Cype Connect, for example. Okay, I exported my structure from Cype 3D in this case to BIMserver.center, and then I also introduced some architectural elements like this area here to protect our equipment, and also something here to simulate the roof. I used Cype architecture to create this effect. Okay, why I created that? Because for me it was very important to use these surfaces, and also the latitude, the longitude, the information that comes from the site to then design my photovoltaic system. Okay, so when I have a surface like this, I have options to integrate my solar panels according to this geometry with more precision. Okay, this is not something new, it's just informing you why I have here these models integrated. Okay, so one of the benefits of Cype is that you can do everything here in the project. So if you are doing solar panel systems, you can even design the structure of the solar panels, not just the solar panels itself, because Cype has the structural part, the foundation part, the electrical part. So you can combine the different softwares from Cype, as I'm showing to you in this case. Okay. But why I'm showing that? Because here I want to show some new features that we integrated. One of them, it's available here in the calculation conditions. Okay, we upgraded the method or the analysis method for design this kind of photovoltaic systems. Okay, in the past versions, it was available just the IDA option. Okay, that was a very good one, but not so precise for all the countries in the world. Now what we did, we created a new system where we can connect with PVGIS. PVGIS, okay, so the solar parameters that we'll be using to analyze here, they will come from this database. Okay, so when we click on analysis in calculate, we connect with this database, get information from there, use it to our project, to the location that we are working, and then we can have our results. Okay, and that's very important because the information we can have here several levels. Okay, and actually according to the countries that you use one of the databases from PVGs or another. Okay, you can see that the database covers all the world in two different groups. Okay, these codes that you see here, Sarah and ER, I don't know how to pronounce that. Okay, so the green and the orange part. Okay, the database coverage. Here in this button, you can select which one you want to use, or you can just leave it on automatic in case you are in doubt if you are exactly in the border between both of them. Okay, so now you have more options. You have a more precise result, selecting the PVGIS and also selecting which part of the database that you want to use. Okay, so that's very, very important. In my project, I think we are in here in South America, somewhere in the green area. So I will select here in this case, the Sara. No, okay, so that's going to be my option, or just leave on automatic. Okay, here in this part, it's where you also introduce the latitude and the longitude of your project. Very, very important to then have a correct result. Remembering, if you use it open bin site, for example, or you have information in your IFCs with latitude and longitude in BIMserver, when you import these IFCs here to Cype PV systems, this information can be also imported. Okay, so you can do it manually or import from other contributions, as we say, in the BIMserver.center ecosystem. Okay, so let's analyze this one. And let's see, for example, I'll just update here my results. Okay, here I can consider or not the shading analysis, and here there's a second new feature that I'll show to you. Okay, yeah, let's consider that. And this is the point that we are calculating, connecting with PV, getting the results and coming back. It's exactly the same situation that we have with other calculation engines in the Cype ecosystem. For example, when we work with OpenSeas in Cype Connect, or Radiance in Cype Lux, or Eponet, or even Energy Plus on Cype there. It's exactly the same system, okay? Here in my reports, I will open this report, okay? The software, yes, when in case you change something, the software just recalculate for you, check for you in case you had any change. So let's just wait again here. So look here, retrieving results from PVJS. No, it's exactly what I've told to you before. Let's get these results. Good. So here we have production summary and justifications. Okay, so let's open the second one here with all the details of my installation, all the production month by month. What I'll do here, I will save this document, okay? I'll save this document. I think it's gonna be interesting to compare later a little bit the results that we have. I wanna show you one second feature. So I will export this document, okay? I will export this document in PDF. This is gonna be my document one, okay? I'll save it on my desktop. Why I'm doing that? Because I want to show you what is the behavior of the software with other applications. The same project, okay, exactly the same project I have also here in Cype architecture, okay, without my PV systems yet, okay. Here is the architectural model. I will do something here. I will simulate creating a vertical element, okay, a wall. Let's create a wall here with 20 meters high. Let's introduce a big wall here. Let's imagine there is a building. There's a building just nearby my architectural model, okay? A neighbor, okay? Could be even information for an open BIM site, okay? I'll share this this new version of the architectural model to BIMserver.center, okay? Including this new element, okay? Including this new element. And I'll come back here to my, my Cype PV systems, and I'll update my architectural element, okay? I'll update to bring this new geometry to my Cype PV systems. Okay, so this element probably will affect the behavior, no, the results from this photovoltaic system. Okay, here there is a new button in the 3D button here in the corner. Okay, where you can see here the shadows. And then when you apply the shadows, let me show you here. You have here the options to see the sun path, okay? And you can also change here the time and the day of the year to see the effect of these shadows, these elements in your PV systems. Okay, so here probably there are certain moments of the day. Let's look here, for example, at 3 p.m. for this latitude and longitude in April 22, I can see the effect of these elements there. Okay, so you have this new option to then decide what's going to be the best position for your photovoltaic panels according to the shadows of the geometry itself. That could be geometry from an architectural model or any other element, any other IFC that is available, even information that is just conceptual, like the geometries from nearby buildings that we have in open BIM site, for example. Okay, now let's see what happens. Now, if I calculate again, probably we have here a little difference in our results. No, let me see the first one. In the meantime, that was the document one. Let's see here some numbers here just to see that we produced around 32,000 kilowatts, and our efficiency was 75%. Okay, this was the first scenario without the building nearby that. If I come back here to my PV systems and open here my calculation report, let's look for the same report. The same report, we reduced it for 67% of efficiency and 29,000 kilowatts, because we have that shadow area in the second option. Okay, and probably here in the different lists that you have here, you can see the loss for related to that shadows. Okay, and also the efficiency. Okay, so here probably there is a difference in our results. No, let me see the first one in the meantime. That was the document one. Let's see here some numbers here just to see that we produce around 32,000 kilowatts, and our efficiency was 75%. Okay, if I come back here to my PV systems and open here my calculation report, let's look for the same report. The same report, we reduced it for 67% of efficiency and 29,000 in the graphs, you can see how it's going to affect if you want to compare both scenarios. Okay, so this new system, summarizing a little bit in the PV systems, is now available for more countries. Okay, it's also covers a new method that is more precise. Okay, and it's also available this geometrical tool that can show you the sun path and also the shadows that can help you decide how you will design your photovoltaic system. Okay, so that was Cype PV systems. Okay, let me close this guy. I also close here Cype architecture, the model that we created. Okay, actually I will delete this because this was just a little example. So let's save that. Okay, and we are talking a little bit about electricity. There is another option here that is very quick. Okay, in Cype we have now a new version that is available for Poland. Okay, Cype PL. Okay, when you open Cype, there is now available the Cype PL, and basically here we have the default values applied to the Polish electrical installations. Okay, here unfortunately I don't understand Polish, but here there are the materials, the cables, and also the codes related to Poland. So for our users from Poland, Cype now also has a default mode that is called Cype PL. Okay, so just open the menu here in electrical, go to Cype, and when you run it, you have the options here, Cype Poland. Okay, remembering that for all the other situations, you can go for the core and personalize also your software following the IAC and ANSI codes that are the international codes. Okay, so yeah, that was Cype, a new feature for Cype. Okay, let me close also here Cype. And I think now we can go for Cypefire. Okay, Cypefire. Cypefire have also new automations. Okay, new automations. Let me do two examples to show to you. Okay, the first one, I'll create a new project from scratch to show to you how it works. Okay, a little example. I'll just connect my new Cypefire with a project. Okay, I'll use the Cype fundamentals model that we created together some weeks ago in our course. Okay, I'll select here my architectural element from Cype fundamentals, and you see that when you import your architecture into Cypefire, there are extra features, new features to create this mapping, this correlation between what you have in your BIM model and the properties of these parts of the model in Cypefire. Okay, so I am talking about this option here to establish the properties of the spaces of your model. There are extra features, new features here. I'll click in the blue arrow here, and I'll import some spaces from my model: the kitchens, the storage area, offices, dining rooms, circulation, toilet, service area. The parking spaces I will not import because they are not important for me in this project. You see that this list of, or these columns that you see here, there are much more columns now available, okay? Because for each type of element, now you can personalize more parameters that in the future, when you click in the buttons to generate something automatic, with these parameters, these automations will work better. They will be this is the way that you feed the system to have then automations to generate your installation in just some clicks. Okay, for example, in the kitchen, I can decide if I want to consider or not sprinklers, if they are required or not. I can select here one of the list of requisites. Okay, I can also apply for each space if it's going to be the area where we introduce the tanks or not, or if it's a staircase or not, or if it's the space for booster sets or not. Okay, if we select that, we have here different options, and we can even consider shafts to have our risers. Okay, if it's a tall building. Okay, so the idea is basically come here and personalize these properties on. So when you start the project, defining how is going to be the behavior of each one of these spaces. And then in the future, you see that the buttons that we'll have, they will do the work of modeling for us with some automations, okay? This option was available before, but now we have much more control. We have here much more properties that you can select, and they are reflected about these different columns that we have here, okay? Once you finish, the software will generate the spaces as always here in Cypefire hydraulic systems. For example, if I turn off here my model, the spaces are here, okay? I will not model everything here, but what I want to show to you is that when you use this button here, that is the generation by zone, okay? The zones, they will consider the properties that we introduced before, okay? I don't have here any sprinkler or pipes or booster sets available in this project because I didn't download it yet. So here you can download that. For example, let's look here for some sprinklers here. Let's go to the filters. Let's filter for sprinklers and let's select English, for example. And yeah, I'll just download here some of them, okay? For example, this brand here and also this one here, just to have a couple of them, okay? Here I have the one of them. I can select here the one that I want to use, okay? This is upright. Let's look one pendant, upright pendant. Here I can select one type of sprinkler. I'm getting one randomly here. I can also select here the same for the pipes, okay? I can download these pipes, okay? So I don't introduce that. So let me come back here to my catalogs. Let's download here some pipes, English, okay? Actually, Taiko and Viking, they may have. I'll download more of my pipes here, okay? Finish. And yeah, they now appear here. And all that options that we have in the other generations, like if it's gonna have a drop, a drop distance, and the pipes that we use for this drop distance, if it's gonna be what's gonna be the maximum distance between sprinklers, or the high above the floor, or if it's gonna be central cross or grid system, they are also here, okay? But imagine that in this unique window, that is this button, combining the information that we're introducing here for the different materials and different equipments, and also the properties that we introduced before into the spaces, we can then generate the installation, okay, in our zone, okay? I can click here and install, or even better, I can go in this one and actually generate for all the spaces like this, okay? So this is the idea. If you work a little bit more, for example, using options to introduce these buttons here, the passages of the pipes, then you can even generate the connections between these elements automatically, introduce, for example, the tanks and the booster sets automatically, okay? So there are more buttons here to do this automatic generation of hydraulic systems here in Cypefire. Maybe my model here is too small, you cannot understand how practical is that, but if it's a building with a lot of floors, I'm very I can say to you that saves a lot of time because you don't have to model all that options and even connect all of them, okay? There's a second option, there's a second automation here that is very interesting. Let me close this one. That I think it's going to be interesting to show to you. I have this little model here. If I turn off the architecture, you see here, you can see here my installation, okay? My hydraulic installation is probably already analyzed, okay? And the new automation is related to the diagrams. Here in Cypefire, we have 3 tabs, and you can generate your diagrams, okay? Here you have a little layout system where you can create the diagrams of your project. And there's this new button here. This option was available. You can draw your diagrams here, but there is this new button, generate diagrams, okay? And the software generates for you the diagram according to the installation. Let's just move some elements here. You always can move everything and change the layers, okay? There are some properties I'll show to you to personalize that, but according to the levels of your building, the elements that you modeled and analyzed before, you can generate these diagrams automatically. So there is also this new automation here to generate these diagrams, okay? So if you open here, you can change the type of the paper size, okay? You can also create a new one manually here if you want, okay? And these elements, if you want, you can then change, you can delete, you can move, okay? You can edit if you want, okay? And then the idea is in the end, use this as one of the drawings of your project, send it to DWG, to DXF, to PDF, okay, and include in the documentation of your project, okay? In case you want to change something, you can always change here, come back to the diagram, generate it again, and it's going to be like connected to the information from the model, the main model itself, okay? So this is a second type of automation that we introduced here, okay? So Cypefire, good. Let me see if there are more things related to MAP, just to be sure. There are a new example on Cypetel, Cyplum, there is a new system for create layers. I will not show that today, but it's very interesting, but it's very, very simple to understand. We covered Cypetherm, Cype PV systems, Cype HVAC. Cype HVAC, actually there is one thing that maybe you will not notice that, but here in Cype HVAC, look, this is the same model that we were looking on Revit before, okay, from Cype HVAC. Here, when you create a new project from scratch, usually in these libraries here, especially in the generic ones, this one here, the library of generic elements, when you open the project and you want to work with generic elements, you have to click in these little blue arrows and import the generic elements, okay? One by one. Every generic element that you want to work, you have to import like this, okay? Could be, for example, here in the materials or in the ducts, okay? You always have to click here and import it. We did a little change here in this new version that is now when you open model from scratch, these materials, they are already preloaded here. This library of generic elements is already preloaded since the beginning here, so you don't have to load it manually. So the generic elements in Cype HVAC, they are now available by default, okay, by default, and you don't have to click here. They will be available here, and it's gonna be one less click for you, a little bit easier to then model your HVAC installation, okay? Very good. Yeah, I think we covered most of the new features related to installations, and I think now it's time to go for structural design, structural analysis, structural design. Let's talk about CypeCAD, Cype 3D, and CypeConnect, okay? This is gonna be the order. Let's start with CypeCAD. Okay, CypeCAD, you also see that CypeCAD also has a new interface. Okay, a new interface that is actually, we changed a little bit some icons here as we changed in the system. You see that some of these icons are updated here. Okay. There's also a change that is very interesting related to this new interface that is in the bin editor, no, or the edition of bins. When we calculate something here, you can open one of the bins, and you see that this new the top of the screen now it's have this new ribbon here where you can see all the options that are actually much easier to understand than the previous versions. No, it was like little buttons before. Now you have here this ribbon, and you can see exactly the main options to change here, the properties, everything that is related to the changes in the longitudinal reinforcements, everything that is related to the transverse reinforcement. Okay, here is where you can generate or manage your transverse sections. Other elements like the openings that were available before, you can just introduce it from these buttons. Okay, No, the same options that were available, but now it's this interface is much more easier to understand the editing resources with the drawings that you have available here. And then everything that is related to analysis. Now we have like this group that is analysis. So you can rebuild your reinforcements. You can do, as always, open the ULS checks from here. You can see the deflections. You can update the information. So this new ribbon is available in the BIMS editor, as we usually call here in CypeCAD, but also in Cype 3D. Okay, when you work with a concrete element, with a concrete beam, actually in Cype 3D, you also have this new interface here. This with this little changes. It's a detail. Maybe it's not something so it's a change in the interface itself, but for me personally, it helps a lot because I can see the order that I usually work. I change the options, then I go for longitudinal, then transverse. Here I have extra elements, and then I always check, so I can read the names of these options. So I think it's a very interesting change. Okay. Another aspect that is new here in CypeCAD is, let me open the other file that was before, is a new type of foundation elements. Okay, so here I created just a column, a very simple column, and I applied here a point load, okay, in this column, just to be able to introduce a foundation element, okay? A foundation element that we introduce as always here in foundation elements new. And when we talk about the pile caps, okay, there are new options here. If you open the pile selection, so now we have 4 options available here, no? The pile itself, the pile generic, where you add the properties of the pile, okay? So the carrying capacity of the pile, and then you check that. You can do the caissons that are very common in South America. You can do the pile itself, so design the pile with the models that we publish in the previous versions. So there are 3 models here to design the piles, to check, to analyze the piles. Some of them using OpenSys. Okay, so this is the model that we use to introduce the layers of your soil and then design the pile. And the new feature is that now that we have here the micro pile. Okay, so let's do a little example. Okay, let's do a little example. First, I'll select here, for example, something that is with four piles, and in my piles, I will create here some examples. Okay, first I will add here the properties of the micro pile. So this one's going to be MP1. I can introduce here the nominal diameter, the outer diameter of the reinforcement tube, the thickness of the reinforcement tube, the yield stress of the steel. Okay, here we can select how it's going to be the infill, if it's going to be mortar or cement grout. Okay, you can add a reference for that. Okay, and if you want to apply a symbol, you can apply a symbol that you can even change here for this micro pile. Okay, this micro pile. Remembering that, as always, you can save that in your library, in your local library, and use this element in the future if you want. Okay, so first I'm deciding here, introducing here the properties of the micro pile itself. Okay, here is where I decide what's gonna be the length, for example, 8 meters. Okay, and also the penetration. If you click here, you can understand a little bit more these parameters. Okay, so the length is going to be this length, and the penetration is going to be this penetration, the penetration of the pile in the pile cap. Okay, so this is how you set these properties. The next step is introduce the properties of the soil. Okay, here I don't have any soil created, so I'll create a new soil. So let's imagine I'm using, I got information from my SPT or from my analysis, my soil analysis, and I have different parts in my project. So let's imagine this is SPT1, okay, or soil 1. Okay, I add here one name, and I start introducing here soil layers. In this project, I don't have also soil layers. So I can create here a new soil layer. How I'll introduce these soil layers? I can introduce these soil layers by adding the geotechnical parameters, okay? and introducing here the apparent unit weight, the submerged unit weight, the cohesion, okay? I can also do using the unit resistance. For example, if you are calculating the resistance in the tip and the shaft, for example, using methods like Aoki Veloso, converting from SPT to this tip shaft or tip resistance of shaft, you can introduce this information and then calculate considering this format. Or you can use it for a more advanced analysis, you can get the curves from using OpenSys. Okay, you can also activate that. Remembering that I can have here different types and certain properties, they will not be available according to the type of the soil, or if it's rock, okay, they will change a little bit here. Okay, and here is how you register your soils. There's a little library here. So for example, for different materials, I'll use here some examples. Like, let's imagine I have here gravel that is like 2 meters. I also have a new one here that's gonna be something like silt, okay? That's gonna be silt is gonna be 3 meters. And then I'm just creating something very random. Maybe this is that there is no sense here in this combination that I'm doing. Soft clay, okay, that's gonna be just 1 meter. And then in the end, what I have here is my my rock, okay, my granite or my limestone in the bottom, okay, that's gonna be 3 meters. Okay, I'm creating here the soil. Okay, I can also click here and introduce the water table in a certain elevation. Okay, let's disconsider the water table in this case. Okay, with these informations now, I am able to introduce my pile with all these informations. These piles are already registered, this soil is already registered, and of course, in the future, if I wanna introduce the same pile and the same properties of the soil in more pile caps, in more parts of my structure, I don't have to do this again. I just use the same elements that are available in my library. So here I'll analyze this element, okay? And yeah, probably here we have problems. Yeah, our situation is not safe here. Let's see what is happening. Okay, let's open here our foundations. And this is exactly like we always do for the other projects. Okay, here we have our pile caps. Yeah, the tip of the micropile is outside of the area you have defined. Yeah, I didn't figure out that. Let's open and let's change the properties. No, so what I have here, it's so long that my micropile for the soil. Okay, yeah, so let's just change a little bit that. Let's imagine it's 6 meters. Okay, and let's see if it's possible in this case. Okay, yeah, in this case it was possible. And here we can see the code checks. No, so the different code checks that we did here for our projects. It's gonna be according to the code that you selected. Let me select one code here. For example, let's use here the American code, for example, the ACI 25, for example, for our structure. Okay, then our foundation is going to be also related to that one. So I'm just changing the code. Let's analyze again this this little example. Okay, and let's go to our results tab here, and let's see the foundation elements. Let's open it. Okay, and here in our code checks, now we have here results according to the code that we selected. No, so they are here for the pile cap itself and for the mini piles. Some of them are okay, like the allowable pull out capacity, allowable compression load, allowable tension load. Okay, and there is one here that is not that is a failure. Okay, the bearing capacity. Okay, so maximum should be 2.6 tons. I have here 9.72. So this mine pile that or micro pile that I've created is not a good one for this project. We should look for a different type, different length, more piles in this pile cap. Yeah, that's engineering. No, that's where you have to work and look for the best solution. And the software will help you as a tool, as a calculator, and also prepare for you all the reports as we always do for the pile itself. So it's the same behavior that we have here for micro piles. Okay, this is another module. Okay, so now we have 4 modules related to piles here in the license list. Okay, so if I look for piles here, we'll probably find, let's see here, the CP1, CP2, CP3, and CP4. Okay, CP1, it's sinking load calculation. CP2, structural verification of piles. CP3, lateral stability. And CP4, micro piles. Okay, so here we have the new CP4 that is also available for you. Okay, so you can check in your license if you have or not, according to the products that you contracted, or you can call our sales team or one of our partners in your country to upgrade your software and introduce this new model. Okay, very good. There are even more changes here in CypeCAD that are more related to the stability of the software, okay? More related to the little corrections that we did, okay? I will not cover off them, but invite you to take a look in this chapter here, other improvements and corrections made in CypeCAD, where you can see these changes or these little changes that we have been implementing, okay? So take a look on that later. Maybe there is something that you have been asking or suggesting and could be here. So I think it's interesting to take a look there. Okay. All right. We have here 1 hour and 12 minutes of presentation. Okay. Probably we'll need here at least more 50 minutes to see Cype 3D and Cype Connect. I would say that the most important features of this new version are available for Cype 3D and for Cype Connect. Okay, this is maybe the best part for structural design. I will start with Cype 3D. Okay, Cype 3D. In Cype 3D, we have at least 2 big new features. Okay, the first one that I think it's very, very important is that now we upgraded the system that we have in Cype 3D to calculate the second order effects in structures here in Cype 3D. Okay, so the second order effects were available before, okay, but we are using also OpenSys to run this part of this type of analysis. Okay, now we are considering elastic behavior for the second order effects, and that's going to affect all the types of analysis that we have, where we can have these changes in the geometry and increment the p delta effect, with the delta, the displacement and the axial forces. So that will affect our stress and strain analysis, that will affect our buckling model, and also you see that we also have here the pushover analysis. Okay, so what I will do here, this project is already calculated. I will just save a copy of this. Okay, I'll call this with changes, because I want to show to you how you can activate this new effect for second order effects. And you see that when you click here in the analysis button, there are little changes here. Okay, so you can select here which analysis you want to perform. So if you want to consider the linear stress and strain analysis, non-linear stress and strain analysis, okay, and this button here, okay, this button here is where now you activate this new system to consider the second order effects or the second order analysis in an elastic way using OpenSys. Okay, so here is where you activate that. Okay, you see that there are even more options here because we introduced also pushover. This is the second new feature that we will see. So you see that this button for analysis is a little bit more complete now. Okay, for example, if I open here my my model, I also have here options to consider that. Okay, and here you see later in the pushover that we can also, in the analysis option, you can also consider consider the second order effects. Here in the model analysis, there's something similar. elastic second order analysis. Okay, so you can include it here. Okay, and you see that there are these buttons because there is a connection, or the same way that you consider the elastic, the second order effects in the model analysis, then should be considered in the pushover analysis in case you want to do the pushover analysis. And with this button, you can just click here and import or select the same properties the same way that you did for pushover here in model analysis, or vice versa. Okay, so you can select by discretizing the bars in numbers of spans, or in a maximum length for these spans, or without discretization. Okay, and the way that you do in one type of analysis should be the same in the other. So with this little button, you can always just import. Okay, so that's possible. You see that here in pushover, we also have it somewhere. Yeah, elastic second order analysis. To do this analysis, the model or the stress and strain or the pushover analysis, you don't really need to do the second order effects in this way. You can just deactivate that. It depends on your criteria. It depends on the importance or the size or the type of your structure. Okay, but this is a new advanced option available that you can now you can also count here in Cype 3D. Again, using your OpenSeas module, if you have it in your license. Okay, good. Let's talk a little bit about the new module for pushover analysis. Now, pushover analysis, as you can see, it's a new option available here in our analysis tab in pushover. Okay, but actually, it's not just here. There is like some steps that you have to follow to run a pushover analysis here in Cype 3D. Okay, so let me show you a little bit these steps. Let's see how I calculated this structure considering pushover analysis. And let's see where we usually start. Okay, basically, when we open the project, we create our project, we have here the different libraries of materials, of sections available in this in Cype 3D. Okay, it's here where we download, for example, the sections from the manufacturers. Okay, and here there is a new button, the plastic hinge library. Okay, this is the place where we will create a library of plastic hinges that then, in a second moment, we will introduce in the model, in certain parts of the model, to then consider it in the pushover analysis in the future. Okay, so here I can create my plastic hinge. I can give a name for that, establish here the type. Okay, elastic linear hardening. This one that is Ibarra Medina crawling trailer. Generic, you can create your own here. Okay, changing the points of the graph. Okay, even, for example, considering different formats with extra points. Okay, so you can personalize and create your own graph here. Okay, by changing these numbers here. Okay, here is where you can consider the plastic monument automatic, or you can apply this value, or the same situation here for the plastic rotation. Okay, so here you can create that plastic hinge. If you have from bibliography or you're researching, you can create here your plastic hinge. Okay, or you can use plastic hinges from the main codes in the world that, for example, the American codes that have these libraries. For example, for steel and for concrete, we can have different behaviors with different plastic hinges. And I can get here, for example, for steel elements, for steel beams and columns, I can select here from the AISC 342 the two options that we have. We have the beams and the columns, no? And according to that, you have you can just follow the properties from the code, or if you want to even personalize something, you can always change here these properties if it's necessary. Okay. Here we have the beams, and here we have the columns for steel, or here we have the same situation for concrete. Okay, always the properties can be calculated by the program or user defined. No, you can personalize if you want. Okay, what I did in my project. In my project, I just created here a little library. I created the 4 situations that I can have in my project, okay? If it's concrete or steel, and if it's the connection between a beam and a column, or in the top of the column. Also, if it's gonna be the plastic hinge in the beams or the plastic hinges in the columns. So I created the 4 of them, following the American codes, and I save it in my library. Okay, I created these plastic hinges. They are here available to be then introduced in the model in a second step. Okay. How we introduce this in the model? Okay, to introduce that after modeling the structure, for example, I created here some layers of information, and one layer that I created was, for example, here, one for my my columns. Okay, all my columns are here. And then in the properties, we have the option to introduce plastic hinges. Okay, how we do that? When you click that, this button here will appear. Okay, and you can select the bars, for example, the bars that you want to introduce the plastic hinges. So I'm selecting all the columns of the project, and I'm opening this option here. Okay, so when we introduce the plastic hinges, we can introduce the plastic hinges considering a bar or a part. What is a part? It's a combination of bars that are linked in a unique element. So for example, we have different segments, and we can consider the part, and you can introduce the plastic hinges or considering the part or the bar. Okay, so it's the thing that this point that you select here. This list, this table here, is where you introduce the plastic hinges in the length of a bar. So for example, I'm considering that I will introduce a plastic hinge in 5% in the beginning of my bar, and also in 90% of the length of the bar. It means exactly 5% from the beginning and 5% from the end of the bar. I want to consider that that's going to be the position of my plastic hinge. Okay, there are more ways to do that. For example, if I change this parameter here, I can set a distance with respect to the initial node in meters, okay, or the same for the end node, also in meters. And I can introduce here relative position as I did, okay? There are different bibliographies that say that you should introduce, for example, in a bin, between 5, 10, 15% of the beginning and the end, or in the column, 5 in the top, 5 in the bottom, okay? So this is the way that you introduce these properties, the position of the plastic hinges, okay? Remembering that we selected all the columns of the project in the beginning. Then we'll go to the interaction type, okay? We can have independent moments or axial in Y and Z, and then you can select which one is going to be X, Y, or Z. This is a column, so here I am applying in Y and Z, okay? And then this is the place where we'll select from that library that we created before, which behavior or which type of plastic hinge that we'll be considering. Okay, here I have 2 options. I can introduce any one if I want from scratch. Usually that's going to be a little bit more complicated. It's better to create this little library before and then just select. But if you want, you can create from here. So I'll select from my library. Here I'm talking about steel structures. And in my library, those 4 that I've created, they are available here. Here is the column. So I created here the one that I got from the American AISC code, okay? And the same situation I'm applying also here for the other direction, okay? When I accept, you see that these plastic hinges, they were introduced, okay? This distance, this little distance that I have here is this 5% that came from the 005 and the 095 in a relative introduction, okay? I can do the same, inverting my layers here and applying, for example, my plastic hinges for the beans. In the beans, I also apply here the values, and here it's going to be just Y, okay? And here, instead of selecting the steel, I'll select the bean, okay? And then they will appear here. If I turn on all the layers and zoom, you understand where they are, okay? Once I introduce my plastic hinges, if in the future I want to change them, change some properties, I can also I'll close here, showed since the beginning. You can go to the plastic hinges, and instead of changing the bars, that you can also open the bar and change the properties, you can also select the plastic hinge itself, okay? And change the property just of that one, or even a selection of plastic hinges and change the property that you want to change, okay? So you can do that using these options here, okay? Good. I changed my model now to show to you. So I'll come back to the one that I calculated before to save time, because I want to show you a little bit how it works, okay? The first thing that you have to do is, of course, analyze your structure, design your structure. Your structure must be safe, okay? So you must have your results from stress and strain to then think about going for pushover analysis, okay? There is no sense of doing pushover analysis before doing the main analysis or the linear analysis, okay? So in this project, I already designed my structure. You can consider or not the second order effects. It's your decision, okay? As we told before, okay? The same situation is gonna be with model analysis, okay? If you wanna consider the vibration mode or the main mode from the model analysis that you did here into the pushover analysis, you can do that. So to do that, you first model the structure, introduce the plastic hinges, analyze, design the structure linear. Then, for example, I can go for my model analysis. In my model analysis, there is one button here that you do your model analysis normally. And if you click here in this little button, use the analysis results to define load patterns in the pushover analysis, the results from here will then be considered in the pushover in case you do pushover. Okay, so there's this type of connections. In my project, I did here my mode analysis. I can see here some of my vibration modes, okay? And then I can go to the pushover, okay? How it works, how the pushover works. First, we start here in the load cases, okay? In the load cases, we can create here different scenarios, okay? In my project, I'm creating one scenario. Usually what we do, we introduce here our gravitational loads. We can even apply factors for some of them if you want, okay? And this is the point that we will introduce the lateral load patterns, okay? These are usually the four main ones that we create, no? X, Y, in positive and negative, okay? So here is where you can introduce that. And then you can also set how you do this lateral load pattern according to the fundamental mode in one direction. That is the case, the first one that I created, okay? Could be also the other direction, could be a specific mode that you can select, okay? That you can select, okay? Here there is the information of each one of these modes. You can create here a load case or a load combination, okay? You can create here. I'm talking about one of them, okay? The first of them, okay? You can also add here an acceleration or could be distributed, okay? So here you have different ways to apply these load patterns, okay? I'll come back here to my X. It's important that for this load pattern, we will also decide here what's gonna be the limit displacement that's going to be our goal in the pushover analysis, okay? So what is the idea? In the pushover analysis, you establish a control node. We'll talk about that in a moment. And when this control mode moves, you start pushing the structure and in different steps until you have enough steps to reach this displacement that you introduce here, okay? So 2%, 3%, 5% of the height of the building, usually it's a number that you can introduce to analyze and create a curve that you see in a while to see how this node that's going to be our control node, how much is going to be displaced, okay? And that could change according to the lateral load pattern that you want to consider, okay? So you can personalize that according to the load pattern or the different directions in this case that you want to consider. How you introduce the control node? Actually, I'll cancel here. To introduce the control node, you have this button here. Usually the control node, you select one of the points that is more in the top of your structure, close to your center of gravity. here, for example, I'll take this node as my control node, okay? Yeah, and I changed my control node, and probably here I lost my results from my pushover analysis, okay? So let's see if we can calculate that, and it doesn't take too many time. But basically, here, this node appears here, and I also have here a list of nodes if I want to change, or I just come back here to my control node and select another one, okay? With that properties, we have here our load cases set, okay? There are some advanced settings here, okay? I'll talk about that later, but basically here, you can change how it's going to be the linearization method, okay? Here you can change different methods. Basically, by default, we are using Newton-Raphson, but you can using Krylov-Newton or even other options here. And there are more parameters here, more advanced parameters that you can consider. I'll do something here. I will click on Analyze because I changed my parameters here. And I'll move my pushover and my pushover analysis calculating here. Probably here I will need some minutes. I didn't mention before, but I also considered in my project the dynamic seismic loading. So I don't remember in which country I consider, but I think it was in the Philippines. We can check later. You can see that this button here from my stress and strain analysis it's available because I considered the seismic loads in my project. And then we can see how the spectrum will cross with the pushover curve, okay? So this is an analysis that will take a little bit of time here. Let's leave it here for a while, okay? In the meantime, this was not planned, okay? My plan was not to change the analysis, it was just to show you the results. So it was a mistake that I had here, but no problem, let's leave it calculating. In the meantime, I'll show to you Cype Connect. And then in the end of the presentation, we come back here and see the results of pushover, okay? That we'll get from this analysis, okay? So yeah, let's see a little bit Cype Connect. These are the things that happens when we are in live sections. Sometimes you have these situations, but it's not a problem. It's just a little change here in our plan. Let me open the Cype menu again, and let me show you another change, a very important change that we have related to Cype Connect. Okay, when you open your Cype menu and you filter for structures, you see that there is one software, very famous one, very important one, that is not here anymore, okay? So BIMSteel, that was always here after Cype Connect, is not more available in this Cype menu. What happened here? Why is not BIMSteel available? Because we created a new combination of two very important softwares, two big softwares in one unique software that is Cype, that is now called Cype Connect. Basically, we got everything that was in BIMSteel and integrated into Cype Connect, or everything that was in Cype Connect and integrated in BIMSteel. They are the same software now, and this new software is called Cype Connect. Okay, so let's open the new Cype Connect version 2027 and let's see how it works. And for those users that has been using BIMSteel, you see a lot of common things here, but now under Cype Connect. And those users that have been using just Cype Connect, you see a lot of another new features available in Cype Connect. Okay, so I'll create here a new project. And you see that the first thing that the software asks to me is to select the operating mode of Cype Connect, okay? We have here the project mode and the fabrication mode, okay? In the project mode, we can design, we can model the connections of our structures, we can calculate the connections, and we can do certain types of drawings, like the drawings of the connections, also the drawings of the structure itself. And then there's a second mode that is the fabrication mode, where we can also create our assemblies, we can create our parts, okay? So more focus in the manufacturing models. Basically, it's the same software with different templates, okay? And then you can work in the beginning of the project if you are just the designer in the project mode. But if you are the guy that prepared the model for manufacturing, the shop drawings for manufacturing, you can work in the fabrication mode. And it's also possible to get the project that you design here in the project mode and send it to the fabrication mode and keep detailing there, keep preparing more drawings there if it's necessary. What is not possible is getting from the fabrication back to the project, okay? So this is the idea. I will start with the project, and then we can even convert. I will show you how to do that. In this case, I will select a project that I have in my list here. Let me just it's a PAV structure, okay, that I calculated with Cype 3D before. I'll import it to show you a little bit this new interface of Cype Connect, show also other features, other new features, because here we have some of them, and I think we must look for that because they are very, very interesting, okay? I've imported here, and look, this is the new Cype Connect. Look how many new buttons we have here, this new bar, new tab here, okay? The list of nodes that was available is now in this side, okay? But this is the new Cype Connect, okay? The new Cype Connect. You can also see the structure here in the middle of the structure. For users that have been working just with Cype Connect, there are a lot of new features here. What I recommend to you, users of Cype Connect, exclusively Cype Connect, take a look on our tutorials in our website, those tutorials that were created for Strubbing Steel in the past versions. And you understand most of these options here, okay? During the next weeks, we will start doing also more content showing these changes here. But basically, the main features that were available in Strubbing Steel, they are now available in these lateral bars, in this ribbon here in Cype Connect, okay? For users that were working in Strubbing Steel using Cype Connect embedded in Strubbing Steel, you'll be very familiar with this new interface because it's basically the way that you have been working Strubbing Steel before, with some extra new features that I will show to you now, okay? So the first new feature that we have here is this list. So now you can search for elements, you can edit from here, you can delete. With this button, you can go to the position of the connection, okay? You can check, verify if they are checked or not. So you have here this list of connections that can help you to be sure that all the connections of your project are okay or not, okay? Another aspect that you see here is this is Cype Connect, but we have here the documents. And here's where you can create the drawings for joints and model views, okay? Joints and model views. And then if you want, you can go for the second mode that I told you before, the fabrication mode, and you have extra buttons here for assemblies, for parts, okay? So they will appear here if you use the second mode, okay? Coming back here to our model, okay? Let's start looking for the new features related to design of connections. There are very, very important automations here in this process, okay? I will open one of my connections, for example, this one that I've created here. It's actually, the connection is not here, it's just the node imported from Cype 3D, okay? And you see that in this area here, in the library, we have new options here, okay? We have here this button, automatic, these buttons to import and export, and the user connections library that was available before. The first thing that I'll do here to show to you is that I will just import here some connections that I've created before, okay? I have here my own library of connections, my local library that I've created using the different operations as always, okay? And just have it here. And in this button of import, if you click here, you see that the software will think for a while and will connect with a cloud-based library of connections, okay? So Cype created a cloud-based server with a list of dozens and dozens of connections that we are constantly upgrading, adding more and more types of connections in the cloud. And then you can use these templates, these connections, these automatic connections from the cloud into your projects, okay? And in this button of import, you can see both situations, your local library and also the cloud library, okay? You see that in the connections, there are some of them that has this symbol here, a folder with the connection, and some of them with a cloud and the connection, okay? This is the difference. The ones that are my own connections and the ones that are from the library of Cype. Look how big is this connection, this library, okay? There, I was counting here, 60 or 60, 50 or 60, just in this first version, okay? Just in this first version. And what is good is that you don't need to update your software to have the new connections that Cype is introducing in this library. The system is disconnected. It's when Cype introduces a new connection in this library, just by clicking on import, this list will be updated automatically. You don't have to go to a new version of the software, okay? Go for A to B, for example, B to C, because this is based in a cloud server, okay? So the idea is the software will try to look in a list of connections that could be your own list, just the predefined connections from the cloud server, or from both, and then the software will try to match one of these connections for you and introduce the best one for that situation that you have in your node, okay? How it works, you can just come here, select one of them and accept, or what I really prefer, I prefer to use the button automatic and select from where I want to get this information, okay, and accept, and the connection will be integrated here in your model with all the operations that are necessary for that, okay? So this is, for me, one of the most important new features of this version, especially for Site Connect, okay? That you can create your user connections, but not just that. Now it's also possible to import predefined connections from the cloud created by us and that are available for you. And this number of connections, these types of connections, we are increasing daily more and more connections to save your time when you model your connections, okay? But when we work in a system like that, okay, I'll accept this one and I'll apply here to my connections. No, it was applied. We can have a lot of advantages, okay? Because with a system like this, we can even try to generate all the connections of a structure, not just one type as I did, okay? So get information from local, from the cloud, maybe for a full structure, we can try to generate all the connections of this structure. And how we can do that? Here, outside, and it's why we can see now the full structure like this in Cype Connect, we have these buttons here, okay? And this button here, although it's a very small button, for me, it's a magic button. Here in Generate, you also have the options to select from where you want to get the information, and the software will try to generate for you all the connections of the project. And in this case, look, for example, here, just in this area, we created this connection, that connection, that connection, okay? We can, here, the foundation was not possible because maybe it was not available, but you can automate here, this connection was created, okay? They appears here with these differences in the status, okay? So imagine how many time you can save by using these automations that are now available in Cype Connect, combining certain features that were before from Struby's, okay? So these are automations. They are available in version 2027A, but remembering that the library of connections, we are changing it constantly, okay? We are changing that I will not say every day, because some days and Saturdays we are not working, but in this button of import, with the time you have even better results, because we'll be adding more and more connections, and then more automations will be available here. Okay, good. There's a second feature here that is very important. That is when that you can create automations of your own connections. Okay, let me find one here that is more simple to show to you. Maybe I'll use, for example, this one here. Okay, I'll take this one as my reference. Okay, this reference. In the past versions, it was possible to create these groups of operations here. Okay, these groups of operations that you can introduce operations, inside of the groups, like this. Okay, to create different folders in the operations. Okay, I will not cover in this presentation how to use the feature that I will mention to you, but it's just to show you that now that's possible. When you create these groups, now you have this little button here, variable settings. Okay, this is an advanced mode to create here different variables. Okay, variables that can be lengths, can be angles, can be conditions of yes or no, could be information from the sections that will be using the project, information from concretes, bolts, anchors. Okay, informations that are available in this database of the connection. And with these variables, you can create your own interface here and create a parametric connection. Okay, so instead of using the operations, the idea is you first model a connection that could be standard, and then you use these buttons here to introduce, to create these parametric connections. Okay, and you can save these parametric connections to the future. And usually these parametric connections, you can decide which parameters of the connection would be possible to personalize, to customize or not. For example, in my project here, let me just move this plane that should be in the top here. And the plane, the plate, yeah, I have here. Probably these bolts also should be there. Yeah, I just don't know the order. I changed it here a little bit, my order, but let's imagine I want to create a connection that everything gets fixed, like the thickness of the plate, the type of weld, and the only thing that I want to have that is customizable is the number of bolts. And I want to change the number of the bolts according to the size of the plate. So you can create these rules, you can create these parametric situations by adding here these groups and then clicking on these variable settings options. Okay, very soon we'll be publishing a video in our YouTube channels. I think it's going to be in the YouTube channels, in our website, showing an example how to work with that, and then you can see step by step how it works. Okay, coming back here to my list of new features, just to save some time here, because we are a little bit in a hurry. There are more features related to Cype Connect. I will just mention that. Okay, just to let's open here latest new features. So yeah, we have here structures. So the new work modes of Cype Connect we saw, second order effects. Yeah, here we group it now, streaming still inside Connect, the predefined connections from the cloud, the automated generation of connections, the parametric connections. Let's see if we have here some images to show to you. Yeah, good. Here we have some very nice images. So for example, no, in this example here, it was parametric, the number of the bolts according to the size and the dimensions of the plates. So then you create your own interface, your own interface using the different variables that you can create. Okay, so that's the idea. yeah, that's a little bit what we have here in Cype Connect. At least it's what I see. Okay, yeah, it's what I see. There are more details here in CypeCAD, Cype Connect also, no? Version 27A includes some minor changes here, okay? So one example, two new you have options here to this was like a lot of requests about that. Let me show you here. You have these buttons here to add or to remove bars from a connection. Okay, so let's imagine that, for example, this purling here, I don't want to consider in the analysis of the main connection. I want to consider as separated connections. Okay, I can, for example, click in one connection and then click in a bar that I want to remove, or the inverse situation. If they were generated separated, you can click in the connection and add more bundles to that node to then design. Okay, so there are these little new features available here. Okay, before we go to see the pushover analysis, I'll show you how to change from the one mode to another. Okay, this project, I have this project a little bit more advanced here. I did a little bit more changes. Let me open it in a more advanced. Okay, so it's here. And actually, sorry, yeah, I have to, my mistake. Let me come back there. This one, it's already converted. Sorry, my mistake. No. So when you are here, there's this button here, the first button, and here you can change from one mode to another. You do that, you accept, you have to close the software, okay? Open the software again, okay, Cype Connect, and open the same project, but now it's going to be in the manufacturing mode, okay, the manufacturing mode. When you open here, it seems that it doesn't change, but actually here in the documents, you have more options, okay, more quantities, the sheets, okay. So for example, if I want to do the assemblies, I will use this option. No, I can click here in my assemblies. I can change my numbers. For example, this assembly, I'll click here in my assembly. Okay, and then I can, for example, let me see if you have here some templates here. Let's just load some templates here. Good, let's load. Yes, let's insert, for example, this is A3. Let's insert a template here. And then by using the library, the predefined views here, I will select here, for example, vector image. I think it's going to be better. I can create my assemblies from my BIM models. No, and then if I want, I can introduce here my table of materials. No, so this is exactly what we have been doing in StruBeam before. Now available in Cype Connect in the manufacturing mode. No, to create our shop drawings. No, so this is how it's available now, and you can convert from one to another, and that's going to be the same for parts. You can still do the joints here, also the model itself, that is the model views. No, so if you want to do an elevation or a floor plan, it's also available here. Okay, this is a little bit the idea behind the changes of Cype Connect, and now StruBeam that was embedded on Cype Connect or vice versa. You can choose how you want to interpret that. Good. Let's close this guy and let's come back here to our Cype 3D. Yes, our analysis was finished, so we can conclude with the final results from pushover. That's going to be the end of this presentation. Okay, so let's see what we can get from here. Okay, you see that these buttons that are now available here. I think one of the most important results that we will get from the pushover analysis is going to be the capacity curve. Okay, the capacity curve. How it works? We will have here different capacity curves for each load case in our pushover analysis, and then the different patterns, lateral patterns that you created. So in our load cases, we created with just one load case and four patterns. No, and you see that here I can see the four curves. Okay, for modes 1, and mode 3, X and Y, positive and negative, okay? And then to create this curve, what we have here is actually the total shear and the displacement that we applied in each step of the pushover analysis. So the idea is we push the structure a little bit with the load, and then we have a shear, total shear. Push a little bit more, another shear. Push a little bit more, another shear, until we reach a number that was that goal that we introduced before. I introduced 900 millimeters as my goal. And here I can see what we call, that is the capacity curve of this structure, okay, for this mode. In these buttons, I can see these steps that we calculated, step 4, step 5, okay? You can see the different steps. And here you can see the linear behavior of our structure until we starting having our first hinges, okay? You see that in this graph, okay, but they will appear classified according to their two ways to classify, okay? According to the acceptance criteria or according to the behavior, okay? The behavior is in that graph that we saw in the hinges before, the position, the segments that where the hinge is located, okay? So here, for example, in this stage of my my structure with a displacement of around 500, I have here 1.56% of my plastic hinges in immediate occupancy, and all the others in elastic behavior. So all the others in elastic behavior, okay? And if I keep going, okay, when I reach here, increases the number of immediate occupants, or keep going, there is a point where I start having the first collapse prevention ones. So the first plastic hinges with a collapse prevention, and until I reach the end of my analysis. So in this case, I reached the goal in 900 millimeters, and in 900 I have 48 with immediate occupancy, 16 with collapse prevention, and 704 in elastic behavior, okay? We can also see that in the other criteria, in other classification. So if I change my steps here, I can go from the beginning with everything on span AB. There is a moment that span BC starts appearing. Then we start seeing some spans CD, okay? And keep going, we find the critical ones, no, the EF spans, okay? But that's happening for one of my patterns, no? I can then change for another pattern and see the differences, okay? Here I can also see a list of the selected combinations. I can have here a little report with this information. Let's get one that is a bit better. This one is more interesting. So I can see here the displacement that we considered, the graph itself. Here we can see the behavior of the hinges, okay? So, and there is one point I didn't show to you yet, that is plotting the spectral and the capacity curve, okay? Why we have this? Because in the beginning of my project, when I decided which kind of loads I will consider in this structure, I decided to introduce the seismic loads with a certain spectrum. And this information, it's what we call, that is the performance point. So when we plot the spectrum and we have here our capacity curve, according to different codes, okay, you can see here the performance point, okay? So according, for example, to FEMA 440, equivalent linear, here, okay, we can also have here the American code, okay, and also then according to the type of soil, okay, you can change here the type of soil, and you can also have here the Euro code, okay, with the target displacement. This is the performance point, okay. One very important aspect about the software itself: if you don't activate your lateral loads from the seismic loads in the general properties in Cype 3D, you can still do your pushover analysis, because actually you can introduce the patterns, as there are different ways that I've showed to you. But if you don't consider the seismic loads, the spectrum will not appear. It's not possible to generate the spectrum, of course, and then the performance point will not be available here. So in case you are doing your tries, you are start working with the pushover here in Cype 3D, and you don't see this button, it's probably because you forgot or you didn't activate the seismic analysis. But there is no sense to do pushover analysis without seismic analysis. The main idea behind pushover analysis is analyze the behavior of the structure in a seismic event. So probably that's not going to happen. So in your project, probably you have your seismic loads, okay? That's the idea. Another result that I think they are very, very interesting, it's the possibility to see this behavior here in the screen, okay? So activating this button, we can see the plastic hinges that we created before, okay? And then you can navigate through the same information that we just saw in the capacity curve in these buttons here. For example, I'll select the criteria of safety here, okay, where we can see the collapse, okay? And then I'll get one of the options that we saw before, the first one that we saw that there were some elements that were critical. And I will change in my steps, and you see that all my plastic hinges, they are now gray because they are in the elastic behavior yet. And there is a moment that some of them, let's see when it happens. Look here, some of them, they change it for green, okay? Going to the status of immediate occupancy. And if I keep going, more greens will appear. And there's a moment that some of them will become red because they reached the collapse prevention status. Okay, so this is the way that you can see it graphically in the screen, where from which displacement the plastic hinges change from one status to another. Okay, here you can also see, for example, the contour plots, okay, or the forces. The forces are interesting to see. For example, the forces now, if I open a little bit more these windows, okay, I can see here that if I activate, for example, my moments, let's just change a little bit. No, I think in this case, it's going to be enough. Let me come back here to the original situation. So my moments initially without displacements, for example, were these moments, okay? And then when I start applying these displacements, my moments, they are changing step by step. So imagine that this 900 millimeters, we did it in 24 steps, I think. Imagine that each 10, 15 millimeters, the ratio that we have here, we are changing the moments, for example, according to this new scenario that is the new step in the pushover analysis, until there is a moment that the loads are totally different and displace it and increase it. And then it's where we start seeing our plastic hinges changing the status, no, seeing the collapse in some of them. Okay, here you can also change that works for any type of force, not just the moments, could be other moments in other directions. Okay, and here you can also do the same to see the deflections. There is a button here that is deflection. So the deflection in the beginning was no deflection, and then we can keep seeing, we can introducing the deflection. Maybe I was too fast. Look, there you can see a little bit the deflections happening there, okay? According to the different steps of our pushover analysis, okay? We can do the same with the deformed shape. Look, the deformed shape is even more interesting to see, especially if you combine with the plastic hinges, no? You see exactly here a graphical representation of the pushover happening, no? You see the deformation, start having your P deltas, and also the plastic hinges that are appearing according to the steps that you are advancing for this direction, and then you have here the other situations, no, that we have in the project. Okay, so this is the idea behind the pushover analysis model here in Cype 3D. More things, you can do the same with the reactions, so you can click the reactions and then change here the steps and see how the reactions are changing according to that. Okay, you can do that. You can open just the contour plots as always we do in the stress and strain analysis in another window. If you wanna see that, it's in this button here. Okay, but it's the same idea behind these concepts that I've just presented to you. Okay, yeah, I think with these points we could cover the most interesting or the most important new features of version 2027. Okay, I am asking here to my colleagues, please, that are conducting this presentation, to share this link in the chat with you, or maybe it's already shared. And I also saw that the questions that you did in the chat, most of them were answered by my colleagues. But in case, is there any other question that we were not able to answer it during the presentation, we will be answering that by email, contacting you in a few days, okay? And from my part, that was the presentation, the version 2027A, okay? So yeah, thank you very much for your presence, your attention, especially if you stayed until the end to see these new features in Pushover and also Cype Connect. It was a pleasure to share these new features with you. It's always nice to see how Cype is developing, and the tools are each day better and better. And it's like when you have a new version with new features, it's like having a new I don't know, when you buy something new, when you see like a new type, a new car, a new mobile phone, or a new video game, you have new features. It's like always nice to work with the new softwares, and I hope you have the same sensation, the same feeling when you download the version and install in your computers. Okay, thank you very much, and see you in next opportunity.